So I'm here today with Tori Pittman,
Hi.
trained in stenography and voice writing, and we're going to unpack a little bit about voice writing. So in New York, there's a lot of, I'll just say, discrimination against voice writing. And I heard this back when I was a deposition reporter from the attorneys. They would say, "Oh, well, I could hear through the mask." And so one of the first questions I asked Tori is, can you still hear through the mask? And I actually, if you'd like to jump
You
on that one.
shouldn't. You shouldn't be able to hear through the mask. Part of one of the taglines is the silent voice. So we're supposed to modulate our voice so you can't hear me. Now, I'm not going to say you never can, because anytime you have a lot of sibilants, the S sounds, those do carry. I mean, like hiss, but the trained voice writer is taught how to keep their voice modulated down, keep their timbre down, so that you're not heard. And with the advent of what we call the whisper mic, you shouldn't be able to hear anything. And they're also taught as well to pack soundproofing within their masks as well. So if you know that maybe the particular mask you're using might be a little more prone to releasing sound, there are ways and things that you can do to modify your mask in addition to the modulation of your voice. But no, you should not be able to be hearing a voice writer, certainly not more than an occasional breath sound or some sibilants.
Right. And I think you might have hit this, but I'm a little out of it today. I think you said during the certification testing, they make sure you can't be heard more than a certain number of times.
Yeah, so the way it works is that it's the same type of testing environment. We're all in the same room, and it's literary, jury, and Q&A. And as you are dictating, the proctors are walking around the room, and they're standing right over your shoulder. If they hear you within that small space, you get a tap on your shoulder, and that is, "Hey, I can hear you. Fix this." If they come around again and tap you again, it's an automatic fail. So you're done. You just spent however much money you spent on that certification exam, and you've got to go back and retrain yourself how to not be heard, because the whole goal is to not be heard. And the certification, that is a priority with the certification. It's not just speed and accuracy. It's also, we don't want to be the people that are being said, "Oh, well, they distract me." Can't help it if you're bothered by the mask on my face. That's the tool that I use. It's just like if you've got a steno keyboard that hasn't been maintained in a while and the metal is clicking on the bottom of the plastic. Can't help I mean, you've got to maintain your equipment. And if you're not modulating your voice correctly, you're not there to do the job correctly, though. You're not ready.
That's great. That's great. So, so 2 strikes, you're out.
Yes.
That's pretty strict.
Well, I mean, and I think it goes to the fact that we want to be seen as, just like in steno, we're basically the potted plant, right? They forget we're there. That's what we want as a voice writer as well. You need to forget that we're even there, and being quiet is part of that.
I know that I've had proceedings where, judges have told me, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot you were there," and I always kind of get a laugh out of it, because I'm losing a little bit of weight now, but I'm this big guy, so it's like, how in the world do you forget that I'm here?
Right.
So I think the other thing that a lot of reporters don't realize, so the voice writing, right, it uses a form of automatic speech recognition. I think the most common one is Dragon.
Yeah, so it's a speech recognition engine, and it's tied to your voice. So it's not like you're calling, the FedEx line and saying schedule a pickup and getting the computer with its little bobbles. No, this is a one-to-one. So I'm literally training the speech recognition engine to understand the way I speak. So it's literally tied to my voice. You may not be able to use my user profile and get the same output that I can. Although I do have an interesting story, if you're interested with this. We know I went to Intersteno a few times, and I was fortunate that on my first trip to Intersteno in Ghent, Belgium, My proctor was Terry Gaudette of, NCRA
Mm.
contest fame. Now, the woman has a fantastic voice for dictation. I have practiced with Terry Gaudette's files. My user profile understands Terry Gaudette's dictation. Does that mean she sounds like me, or does that mean she's so good at dictation that my trained user profile can grasp what she's saying? I don't know, but I watched a file. It wasn't perfect, but it was a really good translation. So it's meant to be trained to one voice. You couldn't probably do it, but apparently she sounds enough like me that my software was okay with it.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that, even in my own research with just the commercially available stuff, like the YouTube stuff, it'll actually get some dictations really well if the speaker is clear, and if the speaker, doesn't put on, like, sometimes I get a little bit of a Staten Island accent, so I'm like, what are you doing? And when I start speaking like that, it has no idea. Like, I said, raise your right hand in one of my videos, and it thought I said rage right hand. But when you look at my dictation and the automatic speech, it actually kind of gets it. So it's kind of interesting in that way. And that's actually in a lot of my writing. I end up kind of poking at the commercial automatic speech recognition because it does really badly depending on who's speaking. But one of the other things about it being trained to your voice, there's also you're able to kind of give it special commands. Like, how in steno, maybe some people do a period as like FPLT or a question mark as STPH. You also have things to differentiate when you're saying the word period versus a punctuation, right?
Yes. And it's interesting because it did change with the different versions of Dragon. Once we switched to Dragon Professional, which those of us have been using it for a while, called Dragon 15, the software is using more deep learning. So the deep learning actually understands, if I say period, it knows if it's the punctuation or if it's the word. Which is, wow. Yeah, I know, right? I still have a conflict in my dictionary just in case, but it generally gets it. But in terms of, yes, like steno, I have my brief forms and my tokens. So I say PIRC for period still because I'm old school. I've been doing this for 15 years, so PIRC is period. But if I do say the word period, it will get it. I say ka for comma, but I now can say comma. I say keek and cac for my Q and my A tokens. And what's really, I think, different now than when we started is that we can go in what I call data mining. I can go into my language profile and I can go look inside and see something that sounds like keek. And for example, there is a professional, I think he's a soccer player, maybe a baseball player. His name is Kike. He's on the West Coast.
Oh, man.
His name is Kike, and it's spelled K-I-K-E. It's not the slur, but that's what I had to pick. And I trained it, so it knows Kike. It knows that. So I just trained it that I say Kike like keek. And now every time I say keek, it comes out Kike in Dragon. And then in Eclipse, my software, I say every time Dragon gives you Kike, you give me the format for a Q. It's magic. I don't have to go program anything special, no crazy, sound. It's already there. I have gone through and I've taken something that the lexicon already has resident and I've modified it for my use. I do that a lot in my colloquy. And I say this a lot when I do my trainings. So if you've ever done a marital or family law deposition, usually the husband and the wife are both in the room and they're kind of at each other. They're making commentary on the record. So Dragon loves pop culture, obviously Kike. The wife is always Beyonce and the husband is always Jay-Z in colloquy. So when it's regular Q&A, it's just, keek, cack, whatever. When she says something snide, it's Beyonce and it's just formatted as Mrs. Whomever. It's brilliant, right? I mean, it works. Dragon knows what it is. Dragon knows what Beyonce sounds like. I just put it in my job dictionary that whenever Dragon gives Beyonce, you give that lady's name in colloquy. It's a job dictionary. It's awesome.
I think it's funny sitting here because it's almost like speaking steno.
It
At least
is.
that's how I'm kind of hearing it because I do all sorts of stuff like that too. I mean, in steno we do, snoo and screw. A lot of people do it, or
Mhm.
they pronounce it that way, and it's basically it's so similar.
It's actually what I call it. It's voice steno.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
voice steno. And I think once people start to see the similarities, there are very few differences. It's literally input. And what I say is, I literally can't write anymore. I physically can't sit at my writer for more than 15 minutes before my arms start to just really give me pain. But I was able to take what I knew from steno and apply it to voice. I still trail like I always do because I'm listening for those voice codes in my head. I'm waiting for the brief forms to happen so I can keep up. The thing that's really different is that think about your breathing. When you're sitting in a steno machine, you can breathe whenever you want to, right? You're just writing away. I have to pay attention not only to the timbre of my voice, right? Because I have to be quiet. I also have to figure out when I'm going to take a breath. Because I started when I was training. You probably have seen the old school steno mask, the one with the trademark, the one that goes over your face. It looks like you're on oxygen, or
yeah.
like you're flying in a jet airplane or a jet plane. So I literally lift the mask up to breathe. So when you do that, you have to stop talking. So then you're retaining, right? You have to retain and trail.
Oh
So
man.
it's like driving a stick shift, right? You've got the clutch foot, you've got the brake and the gas, and you've got the gear shifter. I mean, it's a lot of things all at once, and it's very mental. It's a different kind of mental process than in steno, but it's still a mental process of staying on the speaker, remembering what you're doing, and it's that muscle memory, just different muscles.
Right. No, I totally get it. I mean, I think for us in steno, and I don't know if you've seen Stenoholics on this, but we don't have to worry about when we breathe, but we have to worry about when we cough.
Yes. Yeah, I actually had that happen, a recent deposition. My client was like, you need a break because I'm dictating dictating a little bit more, and he's like, the court reporter needs a break. Yes, I need a break. But I'm always forever, I've got suckers so that I can keep my mouth moist, because if you've ever spoken, I mean, you're a presenter, you understand, after you speak for about an hour, you are so dry in your mouth, and that's going to affect your dictation. So you have to keep, your water nearby, keep a lozenge nearby. And yeah, coughing is definitely a thing.
So I know that stenography, the working speed is somewhere in the 225 words a minute ballpark. I think the top speed we've hit is somewhere around 380. What kind of speeds do you see with voice writing? Do you have any cap outs or?
So I'm certified at 300 words a minute. And that's the older certification. We used to have a speed competition at National Convention, and it was at 350 words a minute.
Wow.
And several people were able to perform that. They've recently, within the last 6-7 years, gotten rid of it, and they've only gone to real time. I actually placed second in a real time competition 2 years ago. I was kind of proud of myself. But I was doing it with an open microphone instead of a closed microphone, so it was more like the captioner's real time.
Wow.
But yeah, I think I've not seen anyone do like what's going to happen with the Guinness, although I think it would be really interesting to try it, because our speed competition at that point was for 5 minutes at 350 words a minute. That was not necessarily using the technology, because it's only been, I would say, in the recent past, when we have these super duper fast processors, that we've actually seen the capability to stay up to speed. Plus, with the advent of 15, like we've been on 15 now for 3 or 4 years. It's just a different animal now with the hardware and the software working in concert. In a daily job, just like where you are. I mean, you get spurts of 280 for 30 seconds, and then it drops down to 180, or they take 3 minutes off because they got to look at an exhibit. So I think most people are still writing between 180 and 200, generally speaking, with the drops down and the jumps up. But in terms of competition, the last minute at Intersteno is 295 words in that last minute. So
wow.
I would love to see Guinness to come to see the NVRA's competition at some point too. But
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, it's definitely, you know, if there's a world record for one thing, why not for another? And although it does actually raise a question for me. So I've spent a lot of time helping people figure out computer parts. I'm not an expert by any means, but do you find that the voice writing needs stronger computers because it's taking all that input as opposed to taking the text?
not an expert per se, because if anybody knows me, I can break electronics just by breathing on them. But yes, my understanding is that we need a more powerful computer. We can't just get like a run of the mill off the shelf computer. Most of the people that I know that tout equipment actually suggest gaming computers because of their sound cards. Because we're dealing with sound, right? So we want to have good recordings as our backup. You know, we're dictating into the computer, and so that's our audio sync. I'm using a professional series ThinkPad. I've got the X1 Carbon. So it's a nice computer, but it's not cheap. I think for me, more than anything, it's the fact that there are so many extra peripherals that we're dealing with. Steno machine cabled or Bluetooth into my laptop. Yay! Voice writing, mask with a cable, with a sound card, with a second cable going to your backup device. In Zoom, you've got another cable that's going into your sound on your desktop, because I don't Zoom from my laptop. I figure I've already got 2 really heavy duty processes on this laptop with the Cat software and Dragon. I'm going to Zoom from a different computer. I don't want to waste resources. So then I have to jury rig it where I've got 2 sets of splitter cables coming in, one to my headset, then one to my computer for my audio sync from the live mic, right? And then a second backup mic, because I'm a redundant systems person. So I've got 2 voice tracks and 2 room tracks because me. So yeah, there's a lot more, in my opinion, there's a lot more pieces involved. And yes, I think, you know, I've got a professional grade computer that didn't cost like $400. No, it cost more like $2,000. And what's really interesting to me is that the CAD software is actually more expensive. So you have to add another grand to the CAD software because they have to integrate it with Dragon. So we don't have to pay $5,000 for a steno machine, but you got to pay $1,000 for the extra CAD, you know, add-on. Plus you need at least 2 masks because you don't want to, you know, have a mask malfunction. So
Yeah, wow, that's a lot of it's a lot of equipment. Videographers, watch out.
right. Can we go back to that the conversation about the speed competition and the certification, because I think there's been a lot of question about how someone does the competitions and the testing. The certification is only just like when a steno writer writes. When I took the test, I could look at my steno paper, right? So we only look at our digital now, but a voice writer can only look or listen to their audio dictation. They're not allowed to record the room audio. Just in case that's ever a question that comes up, in a testing environment, the voice writer is only allowed to record their voice. That's it, period. So when they are transcribing, they're literally transcribing from what they heard. So if I'm writing in real time, my mask has 2, I have 2 microphones to it. I always run a backup because I don't trust technology, and I want to be able to listen to my voice on that backup recording if something happened to my audio sync with my voice sync. So I'm literally transcribing just what I heard. Now, hopefully my translation is decent on my CAT and I can, you know, I can get it from there, but just like in steno, I can go back and listen to my notes as opposed to look at my steno and see where my shadows were on my steno. I can hear where my word boundaries are, because just like in steno, where at the end of the day your pinkies drag, in voice, when you get tired, you tend to slur. So you get a lot more S's and other word boundary problems. So your diction becomes a little less clear. So you have to listen to what you said to make sure that the computer didn't make an error.
Yeah, no, thank you for going back to that, because I didn't even think about that. But you know, that's something that I've always kind of thought of in the context of, say, I think AAERT certifications, the transcribers can go back, as far as I understand, and just keep listening to it. And I'm not gonna go too far into it because I'm not an expert on what they do, but I've always juxtaposed that against like steno. We get one shot, so you guys also pretty much get one shot to get
One
it.
shot.
And if you get tired, well.
So I gotta say though, there is a benefit because I can hold my mask in one hand and I can take notes. So whereas in steno, if I'm not right on top of the speaker and I'm making an automatic brief, I have to remember what that brief was.
Yeah.
In voice, I can write it down. Like I have what we call an on-the-fly dictionary, just standard words that Dragon knows that I use all the time: cupcake, cheesecake, banana, purple, orange, Geronimo, etc. So I say it once, and then I say the trigger, and then I can write it down if I'm staying on top. Like an inner steno in the first 5 minutes, it's like really slow, so I have time to do that. Obviously, at a 200-word take, it might not be as easy to do that, but I can certainly say that trigger word and then go back and global it, and then try to write it down at the same time. And I think from that perspective, I was always decent with my job dictionaries, on the fly steno marking and come up with something. But it was really hard to remember. And this was, before we had the little window that would come up on our screen as they remind you, this is what you did. I didn't have that when I started. So it's a little bit harder to remember those, but I'm able to write it down on a little sheet of paper next to me. So that's quite helpful because I do have the hand free.
That's pretty cool. So as I understand it, you have your equipment and you were going to display for us a little bit, or you could,
sure.
or you could show us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'd like to share your screen, I think it'll come up.
All right, I'm going to switch you over to my Eclipse window. So you should see my Eclipse window.
Yes, I do.
All right, so the first thing to know is that most CAT softwares, the big three, have a voice component to them. So that's ProCat, CaseCat, and Eclipse. And so what I've done is I have added an entire toolbar for all of my voice components, just so that they're easy for me to get to. So first thing I do is I just create, oops. So it just said stop share.
It's still here.
Yeah, you know what it is? It is the fact that I used a hotkey.
Oh, I see.
So let's see. New share, we'll try it again. Yeah, I had to go out of it because it said I was done. Okay, so what happens is with steno, you hit the real-time button and you can just start writing. With voice, I have to do another process, right? Because I'm running two softwares at the same time. So what it did was it's kind of on hold right now because I have to tell it what input device I'm going to be using. So I have several different profiles, and this is another thing for voice writers. I have different masks. And each mask sounds different. My voice sounds different in that environment. So I created one that was the Martel mask, and then a TalkTalk mask, and then I have the new profile from October. But this one right here that I'm going to open, Tori, this is my open microphone. So this is for when I dictate. I did a lot of my Zoom depos this way because why wear a mask if you don't have to? So it's going to open Dragon, and then it's going to shoot me back into Eclipse and give me a real time. So one of the things that I noticed is that it takes a few more minutes at the beginning of a job. So if I'm running late, I need a minute or two more. So what should happen, I'm going to just get rid of that. What should happen is that it should start to give me some text. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that I can speak, but I'm not going to be speaking my punctuation for you. So you may not be able to see my punctuation until I actually do a demo. But what you're seeing on my screen is where the text is coming out in real time, and you're seeing in a different color my conflict. So just like in steno, where I know that Dragon doesn't understand perhaps the contextual differences, I'm going to say, hey, if Dragon gives you this, check and make sure from context that this is the correct conflict to choose. And so I've also said, make it a different color so that I can see when I'm editing. And so that's what's happening here. It's a really nice little thing. I'm literally dictating in real time without my punctuation. But I could also start speaking. Keek, state your name for the record. Period, CAC. My name is Tori Pittman. Keek, where do you live, CAC? I live in North Carolina. Keek, How long have you lived there, Cac? I've lived in North Carolina since 1983. Keek, are you married, Cac? Yes, Keek. What is your husband's name, Cac? His name is Al Sternberg. Keek, how long have you been married, Cac? Since 1989. So there's some things here that didn't come out correctly because I was going a little fast, but it's stuff that you can figure out.
Right, and it's also you're allowed to review your voice notes. So like earlier, I think you said the word demo, and I think it wrote down, and that's something that you would catch in editing, kind of like our misstrokes, right?
Correct. And so here's the difference between steno and voice, is that there is no such thing as an untranslate in voice.
Oh, right. It makes its best guess.
Correct. Now, see, notice it didn't understand that because it didn't understand the word untranslate. So it didn't know that I had to say in voice. I didn't give it the clue to separate the two words because invoice is also a word, right? So that's another thing we have to understand in dictation, is knowing that there are homophones out there are words that are going to sound alike, and we have to determine how to dictate them. It's just like, for example, read and read. Is it R-E-A-D or R-E-E-D? We know it's a thumb issue in steno. And yeah, I did not do my finger spelling, if you will. So it would be A letter, B letter, C letter. Yeah.
No, I think I get it. I mean, it's pretty much
it's steno.
It's the voice equivalent. Yeah. I mean, I kind of see it because I do this stuff all the time. Right now, I have the machine that I use. It has kind of a stacking issue with the initial N and the final S. So I will get, I'll go for a plural of a word, let's say cakes, and we'll say cakes in the oven, and it'll come up something like cake, mistranslate NS, the oven. And it's just, we know as trained professionals looking at it, oh, we need to fix this. And basically what you're saying is it's the same thing. The trained professional voice writer looks at it, knows the issues to look for, and knows how to fix what's inputted incorrectly.
Right, and we use the same tools. If you notice on the right-hand side of my screen, there is a steno bar. That's what Dragon gave. So you might see the word that comes out on the right-hand side, but it might be slightly different in the text because of the conflict choices. And that's the difference between the raw steno coming from Dragon and the added layer of our artificial intelligence that we've chosen to use through our CAT system. I was going to show you things like what my dictionary looks like and what my what my on-the-fly dictionary looks like. If you're interested, we kind of already talked about my on-the-fly dictionary. I use colors. I use words that are unique. I do use voice macros. For example, whenever I want to mark an exhibit, I say Geronimo. And hopefully it brought up it brought up my index. Right. So it's the same idea. Oh, but there's the problem. I need to fix this in my formatting because it brought up the wrong text font. Geek, give me a better font.
I was going to ask. So you have four recordings. You said 2 of your voice, 2 of the room.
Yes.
Would you say most voice writers do that? Is that kind of like a standard or something?
In my opinion, they should.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest arguments that I've had against just straight recording it is if you lose that audio, it's gone. The transcriber can't testify about what was on it because they weren't there. And, it's.
So what I say, and it's for me, I've never understood the argument, well, it's cheaper to buy the mask with only one cord. And I say, it's $100. Okay, on 2 masks, it ends up being $200. What is your peace of mind worth? What happens if for some reason because we know me, you have a catastrophic computer failure? You have now lost the record because just like in steno, the notes are the record. What is your note? Your voice file. If you have lost your computer and the only recording you've got, you are no longer able to produce the verbatim record because you didn't create note file for it. So to me, I always say spend the extra $100 or $200 because you should get 2 masks, and get the one that has the second tail, and then spend another 50 or 60 bucks on an external audio recorder. I mean, Sony makes them, Olympus makes them. They're out there. You know, they're cheap, and they run on batteries. It's. I don't get it, but yes, in my opinion, you should always be running 2 of each. I firmly believe in redundant systems. I don't trust computers, and I can lose. I mean, how many times have we seen in the recent past the Windows updates turns off a USB slot?
Yep. I actually, you just reminded me of something terrible that happened to me. So I get made fun of at my work because I only go into the courtroom with my machine, and most people do the machine hooked to the computer. And usually this is fine because the machine itself has redundancies. There's I think 2 SD cards, there's the RAM, and then there's the onboard hard drive.
And the microphone slot.
Well, that I don't use, but they don't let us use it. So,
wow.
Or they won't want us to use it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And so usually it's fine. One day, my machine decides to take a dive, decides to fall in the middle of court, and the SD card flies out of it, and it's just terrible. Now, luckily, I believe it was on the backup. It ended up being okay. But it just got me thinking from an equipment standpoint, wow, if the machine had decided to die at that moment, I would not have been able to continue working that day because I don't think I had a second machine at the time. And so around that point, I got a second machine. So when you're talking about peace of mind, I'm totally with you. I think that you know, even if you don't have it, well, for deposition reporters, it's going to be a little different because they have to kind of bring everything either in their car or the office. But, you know, for me, my office was, you know, an elevator ride up. So, so now there's 2, in my case, it's 2 Diamante stenotypes, and they're sitting, you know, one is basically sitting on the desk collecting dust, and the other one I use.
Yeah, but, I mean, I've actually gotten a call from a court reporter who knows or knew that I had 2 steno machines. I always had a backup steno machine. Wow. And I literally got a call from someone at the airport. They're like, I understand that you have backup machine. My machine got, wherever they were flying from, they're like, it didn't make it. I'm thinking to myself, why did you check your, but okay. So I literally rented my steno machine to somebody. Now, granted, it was an old, I mean, this is how long ago, it was a Stentura 8000. You know, but I had 2 of them. So here, borrow it for a day. Have a good time. Enjoy it. It's not calibrated to you, but it's something. You know, I would not want to be in a position where, and this is a good segue, as a mask, if you think about the fact that you've just been speaking into a very closed environment with microphones, these are electronics, they don't do well with liquid, with moisture, right? If you don't have a backup mask, you could literally not be creating a record and not, if you're not watching your real-time speed, you may not know that the computer isn't getting it. It's really easy to see if you're watching because it literally comes out him, because the microphone isn't getting it. But if you don't have that backup mask, what do?
Wow, yeah.
You've got wet microphones and you got to wait until they're dry. Not cool.
Got it. Are they like liquid proofed so that you don't get anything inside? Oh no.
No. It's literally like one of them is very much like a lavalier mic that the videographers use that have like a little the little squishy stuff on top of it. The other one is an integrated mic that's literally in the mask, and that's the smaller one, but they're still going to be subject to moisture, and that's one of the other things when we talk about being quiet. Every break, I take out all of my stuffing and I let it air out. I wipe down my mask before I get up to go to the restroom. All the stuffing comes out to air out. I wipe down my mask and let it air while I go run to the restroom. And then I, wipe it down, pat it down, and then put it back in for the second session. Usually I'm good with only one, but I always carry a second one. But it's a best practices kind of a thing. And it's not something we as stenos would even think of because we're not dealing with, you know, all this extra stuff. You've got a steno machine, you've got your cabling if you're not doing Bluetooth, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You know, someone can knock your tripod over, which would suck. And it has happened. Or someone can knock some water onto your keyboard, which would also suck. But it's not like I literally broke my stuff and I can't work. That would be bad. And you know, what do? When an expert witness is $750, $1,000 an hour, do you have E&O insurance to cover that while they're waiting for you? Are they going to be frustrated? And they're going to call another court reporter? Are they? I mean, there's so many bad things that can happen if you're not paying attention to these little details that maybe you weren't exposed to in school or in your mentoring. I do have my dictionary open.
Great. I'd love to see it.
Share. All right. I have no idea if you can see this. It's kind of small.
Yes, sort of.
Yeah, it's really small.
Whoops.
And no, yes. Yeah,
well,
so
I can see it, but
so what it is on the left-hand side is the steno. So the steno is what Dragon outputted, and then the text is what the CAT software outputted. So for example, when I say the Administrative Office of the Courts, Dragon just knows it's a bunch of words all strung together, so they don't cap it. Well, I know in my state, I want it to be capped. So I say every time it gives you that string of words, cap the right words, you know. And then, let's see, here's one, number 7 here. I don't know if you can see it. All right, ALRIGHT. Because the people at Dragon don't know English.
yeah, that's a pretty common thing. I got into a fight with someone once. They're like, oh, I do paperwork for such and such government office, and it's ALRIGHT. And I'm like, no, it's not.
No, it is not. So that is one of those dictionary entries you must make. And then you get to some other things like, let me see. Here's one, anti. So Dragon in its lexicon has ANTI with a hyphen. And I know you can't see it. I'm really sorry. It's
fine.
So what I do is that I know that my software has a particular formatting that it needs for prefixes. So all of the prefixes as they come through, when I see them in Dragon, I say, put it into my CAT software's, you know, preferred format. So that's there. So here's one, applause, which if you're ever doing CART or captioning, I say applause, and then it goes and it gets my automatic formatting for a parenthetical, open parentheses, applause, period, close parentheses, another paragraph. So that's all the formatting things. So I am taking raw text that was outputted and formatting it to what we do. Here's another one, argue, close. I don't do a lot of court work. So I that was just what I came up with. I could say close. My problem is that when I say close, it might hear clothes, like clothing.
Yeah.
So I don't do, I do some duplicative on my auto includes, but this one makes sense to me, argue, close. And it brings in a closing argument header. Let's see what else we got here. Attachment. So this one, attachment is just the word attachment, but sometimes they're talking about attachment B or attachment 2. So I want to force it to give me a number or a letter. So again, that's your CAT software. So this is how we as court reporters, as stenographers, if you're looking at this, and we as voice writers who are trying to make our transcripts all that more beautiful by using CAT, this is how we do it. We say, here's this beautiful, word, but let's apply formatting to it to make it even prettier so that when I go to edit, I have less work to do. And there are all kinds of options here. And
it's the same basic principles as a stenographic dictionary, where the more time you spend on it, presumably the less time you spend editing if you have a good dictionary.
That is true.
Thank you so much.
Where was I?
The dictionary.
Dictionary. What about the dictionary? I'm thinking, hold on. There's so many things in my head about this stuff. Oh, right. There's 2 different levels here. So we're training, we're spending time with our CAT dictionary, but we also have to understand the way that Dragon works, because Dragon is just words and sounds. So what a really savvy voice writer would be doing is they would be creating lists of phrases, so 1 or 2 or 3 word phrases, and there's ways to do phrase extractors on the internet. You can take a text file and say, pull out all the 3-word phrases in this transcript and create a phrase text file. But you can also take a completed transcript. Like say, for example, you're in court, you've got this big case that you're working on, and maybe you did all the pretrial motions. And so you've got a lot of really good vocabulary, and you've actually you've had time to produce the transcript. So what a voice writer can do is they can take that final transcript and create what we call dragon food, in quotes. I don't know if it's trademarked or whatever, but what you do is it's basically an automatic reversal. So it's a reverse tran dictionary. So you have this beautiful text file, and you're saying, okay, every time you see this happen in the transcript, if it's a Q marker, if it's a period, if it's I can't even think right now, but a bunch of phrases. Like, for example, Dragon doesn't understand when I say I'm or I'm not as clear in my diction. So my I'm is I'ma. I'm going to do this, right? I'ma. So I have this reverse dictionary. It says, okay, I'm done. Run this reverse dictionary and create for me this raw text file with my dragon food. And what happens is you end up with this beautiful file. It's literally wall-to-wall text. It's just black words on a white screen, but it has all of your voice codes in it. So remembering the dragon is a frequency translator, right? It's going on numbers. It's going on percentages. So the more times you have a keek or a cack or a snoo or a screw or whatever in that file, it's going to say, okay, I see this. This is a high frequency word. So when it builds its database, and it's not sure what you said, but number one, you say this a lot. And number two, it follows in this format, because it's not just the words that you're talking about. It's also the style of how you speak. It's going to go, oh, hey, that's really common. I bet you that's what she meant to say, but I didn't hear her right. So it's you taking the text that you did say and saying, here's some more data for your database. Learn from this. And next time I go into a hearing or a case that may be on, let's say, a toxic torque, say you're doing a lot of asbestos, you have a file folder of text that's just about asbestos. You go into this job and you remind Dragon, this is the topic today. So it doesn't go out in the world looking for some other word that doesn't have anything to do with asbestos. It knows we're talking about asbestos. So it's a little bit of legwork on the front end, but it makes for some really great translations. So for example, when I was in court, for some reason, the resident didn't want the civil trial. I don't know why. She didn't want a civil trial. I'm like, you make more money with civil trials, but okay, fine. So they sent me, I had to drive there, and I'm like, I don't have anything. Do you guys have a document of the complaint? Do you have it in Word or anything? They had the complaint. They sent me the complaint. I analyzed the document. I didn't do it for the context, the words as they would flow. I just wanted the vocabulary. And I analyzed it. So as we started working on this case, these case-specific terms showed up and they translated beautifully. I didn't have to think about how to say them, how to capitalize them. They were there, which is very helpful since I was like 2 hours away. So I didn't know any of the local names of anything. So that's how a voice writer can make their translation better. They're working with their cat and with their dragon, but they have to understand both softwares. And I think there's a lot of a disconnect. What I see in my colleagues is understanding when they're building stuff like this, does it go in Dragon or does it go in Cat? And that's a really huge thing to have in your head, to know formatting goes in my Cat system and sound goes in my Dragon system. So that was a lot of talking, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm actually really amazed. It kind of, how do I say it? I have a lot to say about machine learning as it pertains to the automatic speech recognition.
Yeah.
But I just see this as, trained person. When it's trained to one person's voice, it's actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. What translations do you see? Because I've spoken a lot and I've written a lot about a study that came out last year from Stanford. And it's called Racial Disparities in I think, automatic voice recognition or speech recognition, something like that. When you look at it, depending on the person's dialect density, it's getting 25 to 80% accurate. There was like one person that it got 100%. So give us a little idea, actually. So 25 to 80% versus
Yeah, so
what do you get?
Most days with my clients, I'm 98 high, depending. But remembering too, like in steno, what I put in is what I get out. In voice, it just depends on how I breathed.
Yeah.
And how I phrased it. But I would say 98%. Out of the box, a good voice writer is going to get 90 to 92% before even training it, because they're used to dictating. And the thing too is when you're talking about dialects, I live in the South, man. Okay, we have some serious accents down here. I'm from upstate New York, so it was definitely a challenge because I didn't understand what a pin was. Did you know a pin is actually a pen?
Wow.
Right? I'm like, what do you need a pin for? You know, as a pin goes in your hair, right? As a safety pin, as a pen. So when I'm down here and we're talking dialect, I understand now when someone says fluke or tobacco, I know he's saying flu cured tobacco. And I know how to dictate it so that it comes out flu cured tobacco. A computer doesn't know that. So you're dealing, same as in steno, you're dealing with the operator's brain and understanding of, you know, what's coming in their ears and out their fingers or out their mouth. I am literally listening to what is being said, paying attention to the context, and I know the words that are happening. So a trained voice writer is going to be really, really good at it. Now the question is, are they good at it with the computer? And that is the hard part. I could be a really good voice writer just transcribing for myself using my old recorder. That's not where we are now. We need to be using the real-time technology, and dictating for a computer is different than dictating for your own ear. And it means paying attention to the spaces between the words. It means not giving too much data at any one time. You don't want to give it too little data because it's listening to phonemes. So whereas with steno, a small word, I can get a small word. It's the 5 or 6 syllable words that start to get really hanky because you're like, oh, my fingers don't know where to go. The long, or you've got more time to make a mistake and hit a key where you're only supposed to hit half of the key. And with voice, the more phonemes involved in that word, the easier it is for me to get it. The fewer phonemes there are, the harder it is for the software to discern. I have a 5 conflict. I have several 3 conflicts. And we're talking about we're, where, and were. And it's got to do with, I only said one thing, so I have to make sure that when I said we're going to, right? We're going to the store. How do you say it? So you have to be always thinking about how you're phrasing it, not just for breathing, but for the computer to understand it. So I can be writing were on a steno machine. It's great. It's easy. It's peasy. It's going to get out. Whereas, you know, most of us have soup for supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I mean, most of us have that, right? But if we didn't, that's a lot of strokes. I could say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It doesn't sound like anything else. Dragon will get it right every time. So being able to dictate for your own ear is cake. Being able to dictate for the computer means breathing. It means diction. It means volume. It means chewing your words, really. I mean, I have to be very, very careful that I don't start to slur. I don't have those word boundaries with, you know, the S on the end of the word and the S on the beginning of the word. I literally have a slight pause. I don't know how long in milliseconds it is, but a lot of times I will dictate in small spurts like that to force translation. And so, again, there's that skill set involved. So the more savvy voice writer is going to understand not just how the cat works, but also how the dragon works, and understand what they've trained dragon to understand and what dragon hears. And you can corrupt a file. You can ruin your dragon. Dragon will, I mean, I can't tell you how many I have ruined in my, oh yeah, you can put things in that it doesn't understand. Like when you're a beginner, you can start putting in things that maybe have formatting from your cat software in, and Dragon doesn't understand that. So it's going to give you nothing. Right. Yeah, that's exactly the face you make. I said something. Why didn't it give me something?
Yeah. Nobody saw the face, but it was.
Yeah, he definitely made the oh my gosh face. So if Dragon doesn't know what that input is, it doesn't give it. It's like, I'll guess, but a lot of times if it's got that really weird formatting, and you could corrupt things if you give it bad data. So I say when you're doing the dragon food, you shouldn't be doing it when you're tired. So if you're a morning person, do it in the morning. If you're an evening person, do it in the evening. If you've had a long day, don't do it. It's got to be something that's focused, because it is critical, because it's hearing you. It's literally learning from you. It's not the mechanics of this steno stroke equals this. It's saying this sound is this, but every time I say it, I might sound a little different. So it's saying this is the baseline sound.
I think I could sum this up pretty well. I think I'm getting it. So
It's scary.
there's a study out there. There's a study out there that I think it says going without sleep can become the equivalent of being drunk. So basically, as a stenographer, I would not get sloshed and then start updating my dictionary. So, and I would also, same thing, I wouldn't, go 48 hours without sleep and be like, oh, let me transcribe this job. So it's kind of the same thing, where when you're a professional voice writer, you can't do it when you're tired or impaired in some way, because you're going to mess it up, and it could really cost you.
It could. And I always say to my people that I'm training, don't worry on your first user profile, because you're learning. Figure out how it works. And if you need to create a new user profile, that's fine. You will get the hang of it. It's just like anything new. I mean, when we were learning steno, we made a lot of mistakes. I know I put all my garbage in because I needed my garbage in, because I'm a sloppy writer. I can write fast, but pretty isn't as easy for me. So when we first start learning voice, we can make mistakes, and we wonder, why isn't my translation is good? It could be any number of reasons. It could be you've literally put in some bad data. Go ahead and create a new one. But just like in steno, when you have a good dictionary, save it, back it up somewhere, and keep it so you can retrieve it if you ever have a catastrophic failure of some kind. I also say, if you change your input device, like just if you got a new steno machine, like I started out on the Stentura 8000. I went to the Passport. They don't write the same. The computers don't see them the same. The masks don't look the same either. So if you get a new mask of a different type, so I've got the dragon mask and I have the talk tech, I have to have two different inputs. I don't have to have two different cat dictionaries, right? Because they're still running through. I'm still using the same voice codes. So they're still running through my cat dictionary. But because I sound different in the different masks, I need to have two different inputs, which is why I have one for open mic as well, because I sound completely different in open mic, because I sound like myself. I'm not modulating my voice down to whisper.
Right, I understand. So I think just one question, and then we'll wrap.
Okay.
I don't think we hit this actually. What's the training time look like? Because I know for steno, there's some very lucky souls who claim 12 months. I was able to do it in 20, so I consider myself lucky. A lot of people take 3 to 4 years. It's just how it is. So how long for voice writing?
So just like steno, it's how much time are you putting into it? How much time and effort? If you consider it a full-time job, I can see someone going to a program and being out in 6 months, and maybe even sooner. Also depends on, did you have any steno training? Because if you had steno training, you already understand the concept, right? You already know how to trail, you already know how to listen at speed. So I have met several stenos who have transitioned in significantly shorter periods of time. Most of the programs that I'm seeing are about a year, because you've got to get the other programs that you've got to get, the medical terminology and legal terminology, and you have to understand how to use the cat, et cetera, et cetera. There's still speed building that you have to have. But one of the things I usually say to people when they ask me about that, I say, how long did it take you to get to 140 words a minute? Because I think that's a really good metric. Most of us, it took us about a year in steno school to get to 120 or 140.
Yeah.
And I would wager most voice writing students are starting at that speed. So if you think about that, all of a sudden, the year that we're saying is possible is about the time it took or they say it takes steno to get out, right? It's a 2-year program. You've already taken a year to get to 120, 140. So I would say a year is a decent number to look at. You may have already had some of the prerequisites. You may, I mean, I know so many voice writers who have baccalaureate degrees, so they don't need certain things. They only need the core skills. And the one thing that I do see, and this is coming as a mentor, is that I see that we in the profession need to step up our game, and that so many of these students, whether it's voice or steno, really need someone to talk to about the things that they didn't learn in school. They don't know what they don't know. And it's so important because there's only so much they can teach you in school. You have to experience, you have to experience, how long is it going to take me to get a transcript out? I don't know. What do I don't know what experiences you're going to run into, but I can certainly tell you, this is what happened in my world. And so I think a year, and I would certainly want anybody out there to do at least a month-long internship, at least. I have sent some of my interns to work in offices, like part-time, like do you need help in an office, like doing production, doing scheduling? I think it's really important. I think that's one thing that nobody that I'm mentoring has really seen is the back office work. And I think that's something that we can share. But I think a year is probably a good number.
Yeah, I personally, I would love more back office knowledge. I think that certainly something that I completely lacked, and did not serve me well. It's interesting that you mentioned people don't know what they don't know. And I think back to, a friend was talking to me about someone that he got to see their transcript. And it was a younger person, and the house was in foreclosure, and they had FOR, closure, as 2 words, basically. So, and it's interesting because as a young person, and I can kind of still remember this, you just don't know stuff. So, for example, I didn't know anything about board work, and I found myself transcribing some board meetings, and they were like, the co-chair. I was hearing coat chair. And I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I swear some of those transcripts went out wrong. They really did.
And you wonder how did we survive our first year of court reporting?
I don't know. I kept reading, really.
Yeah, I think vocabulary is one of those things. I have my own little mentoring group, and I'm always throwing vocabulary word because I get all kinds of stuff in my transcripts. Like today I had the word goniometer. So when I'm like, I'm going to post this up here, go look it up. I mean, if you don't know vocabulary, there's no way, how would you get it right? On the other hand, I'm going to give you my story that I always share because it's a real-time story, and it's one of those things that's a dragon thing. And deep learning. I was the official court reporter in the North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Project 3-judge panel exoneration hearing. And we were on day 6. And it's time for closing arguments before the panel. And it was about an African-American prostitute who had been murdered. Fortunately, I was not providing web streaming. We were only camera web streaming. The defense attorney was amazing. He is one of the stellar attorneys in our state. He is legal scholar, excellent orator, and he brings out a definition from Black's Law Dictionary. Do you know where I'm going? No. All right, so deep learning says, I am learning from the topic that you are speaking about. African-American prostitute. Because Tori was doing closing argument, it was the end of the day. She said Black's Law Dictionary, but apparently Dragon had never heard me say Black's Law Dictionary and translated Black's Law Dictionary. Exactly that face. This is where I'm going, thank God I'm not broadcasting.
That's something that captioners have talked about all the time. You know what? I want to do a different face. Hang on, let me see if I can get it. I want to do a different face just for the audience.
Right? I didn't say it wrong. I said Black's Law Dictionary, but Dragon had never heard me say Black's Law Dictionary. It learned what I was talking about, made a judgment, and thank God it wasn't real time. I mean, it was real time for me, but it wasn't real time output. But these are the things every single minute on the record I have to be paying attention to. And yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, that's even tougher because at least in stenography, we can kind of take like captioners. I took a captioning webinar, and they said, "Listen, just take that stuff out. You know, just take all the curse words out." I don't know if I should say them for this video, but you know, I really feel for you because you basically have to guess at a technology that you don't know exactly how they programmed it. You just know how it usually behaves.
And again, it's got to do with the fatigue, right? So my pinkies at the end of a day, at a steno day, my pinkies might be dragging an S or a Z. You know, I mean, it could happen, or I could, you know, drag the one on the left side. The ability to pay attention to how you're speaking and to not get lazy is a really difficult thing for 6 hours on the record. It's mentally debilitating. I come home, if I'm on the record on an all-day job, I am spent. I can do nothing. My brain is done. And if you've spent any amount of time in the past year with a mask on your face, imagine I'm wearing a mask on my face for 6 hours. I'm literally breathing my own stuff in, right? I mean, I'm doing this, but I'm giving myself a headache as well. So I'm tired. I'm giving myself a headache, and stuff happens.
No, I totally get it. I was just the words going through my mind just now as you're speaking were I quit, I quit, I quit, I quit because I just I mean, I had to testify once for maybe an hour and a half, and after that I went home and took a nap. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, speaking is terrible.
Well, and that's
Anyway,
why and I apologize. I'm sorry.
no,
That's why that's why I had the sucker in here. I apologize for people watching, and I was chewing on the candy, but I was out of voice.
if they noticed, I don't know. Anyway, this has been, you know, Tori Pittman. And so you're based in North Carolina, right?
I am.
You should probably give a pitch. You know, do you have a website or anything? Any way that people could reach you? Because
Absolutely.
yeah.
So my main website is pittmanstenography.com, and that's my name, Pittman, stenography.com. But I also have an email, and it's pittsteno@protonmail.com. So PITT steno@protonmail.com. Happy to chat. If anyone has any questions, would like to do a little bit more in depth and understanding how the dictionaries work, happy to do it. I train public speaking at events, etc. So thank you so much for inviting me on. I hope it was helpful and enlightening.
Thank you. It was definitely enlightening to me. You know, I've wanted to do a voice writing article for a while. I think I said that prior to our start, and this is, you know, this has been really great.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you.